Mining investment company Cadence Minerals has seen its shares more than double after news its interests in its iron ore project in Brazil has the go-ahead from the authorities there to commence shipments. Kiran Morzaria is chief executive of Cadence and joins us now. Kiran, good to talk to you. Congratulations, first of all, on the share price reaction to this news this morning. In just a couple of minutes, I do want to get up to speed with you in terms of you as a CEO of a company operating in the current near global lockdown that we've got at the moment for coronavirus. But first of all, this news today, and as I say, the share price, in fact, I think it's up over 130%, I think, at one point this morning. What's the generating news behind this?
Well, thank you, Jeremy. The generating news about it has been, in essence, us achieving our goals. We started off on this project a while ago and announced in June last year that we would be investing up to, or had the right to go up to 49% of the asset. And we've been following this project through and being active on a day-to-day basis. The culmination, or the first stage of what we said is one of our goals, was to get the authority and eventually ship the iron ore stockpile that sits there. Currently, there sits about 1.4 million tons of iron ore at stockpile, and we're going to be able now have the authority to ship that, move that, and invest it in the asset, i.e. basically doing its commissioning studies, and also allow us to pay hundreds of historic creditors when this asset shut down in 2012, and move this asset forward for the benefit of the local economy and the state. It also then is a stepping stone to our next stages, which is recommissioning, bringing this asset back up to 5.4 million tons of iron ore per annum, and therefore, realizing its potential value.
To what sort of degree does this not necessarily change your direction, but I mean, you've now become more of not just an investment company, you're now an operator, is that right?
Well, fundamentally, we are still an investment company under AIM because we are not controlling the asset. But our joint venture allows us to have effectively two board members on the JV, along with our other JV partner, which will have another two board members plus an independent. So we are not in control of it, but we have a great deal of input. And I've been involved day-to-day basis, along with our JV partners, moving this asset forward. So we're still an investment company under AIM, but yes, there is certainly much more of less of a passive role as an investor and much more of an active role, almost like a bit more of a private equity type style of investment approach.
Just tell us what this means to the average investor. Those obviously holding shares very first thing this morning have, as I said, seen a doubling of the overall value of their holding this morning. But what's this mean for investor return potentially?
Well, I think we have to look at it, what are the next stages and how we achieve those. So yes, we have achieved this, let's call it a turning point for the asset. In the essence, we're now allowed to start shipping the iron ore, which will generate revenue and profit, which will then allow us to reinvest it into the asset. But for us, this is the stepping stone. So as I said beforehand, our goal is to get to full production, 5.3 million tons per annum of iron ore. It's high quality product. We'll be looking for the majority of that to be 65% iron ore product. And we need to go on that route. So that route is we now have started shipping the stockpile. We'll start the recommissioning studies, after which we will then look to finance it, majority of the capital investment, majority of that through debt at the asset level, and bring that to production. So the value upside, I suppose there's a comparison, which is a good thing. We know that this thing's operated, and in 2012, when it was owned by Anglo and Cliffs, the valuation they put on it was effectively around $600 million for their percentage, and it was generating a profit off the top of my head around 120 to 130 million dollars per annum in 2012. So for us, this is a potential game changer for the company because the way that we structured it is that we've structured it to only invest on very key issues forthcoming. So reducing our risk and our shareholders' risk to technical, financial, and and sort of regulatory risk, which is three key tenements in the way that we've invested in this asset.
So 6.2 pence, which is where shares are at the moment, what is being priced in? Is this fully pricing in what you've reported this morning?
I don't think so. I think there is further upside there, but I'll let the market decide that. Beforehand, we're effectively valued at the gross value of our assets, i.e., a stake in MMS and EMH, and very little value is being attributed to Amapá. I think people can finally see that our investment will occur, and we will own 20% of this asset, going up to 27%, and our first right of refusal to go up to 49%. So people can see a path that we've delivered along the way, whether it be getting the JRP approved by unanimous, all the creditors approving it, showing state support by getting the railway concession granted, and getting this petition passed. This was filed by Dev, but it had creditor support and it had the administrators or the trustee support, KPMG, for this to get done. Because like them, our view is that we need to get this asset up and running to basically not only benefit us as investors, but benefit the wider community, the multiple creditors that are there. And frankly, it's been a shame that our 2.5 million has been sitting in escrow since July, while we've been able to come to a resolution with the banks. But we will do now. We believe we'll come to a resolution with the banks in very short order, and we'll move forward and get this thing into production.
Just to steer the conversation round to the earlier point I was mentioning about the current environment, clearly this interruption that we've had to a lot of businesses hasn't caused a problem for this particular deal to be announced this morning and the authorities in Brazil to give the go-ahead. But what's happening at the moment with the company with this, as I say, near global lockdown? Here am I broadcasting from home, and indeed are you as well in the south of England. What is it that's going on in your business, which maybe otherwise would be a lot easier had it not been for this lockdown that we're in at the moment?
Well, I think the reality is that we've got carried on with the business. We've carried on working. Relatively, the board is fairly dispersed. We have 2 board members in the USA. We have another board member in the UK, and we also have the team in Brazil. So a lot of the communications that we've been doing has been doing through what everyone's embarking on, which is various Skype, stroke, WhatsApp, stroke, any other social media calls and liaising on a regular basis. And that has ensured that we're able to deliver this. I suppose the challenges, and that's why we do say that COVID dependent, is more of the logistical hands-on work. So, getting people out to site, for example, to carry out recommissioning studies if they need to come from abroad, these sort of aspects. But I think, as we've shown in Brazil, sort of the legislative background and certainly the federal background is still on operation, because we can all work quite effectively through basically what we're doing, like we're doing now. Instead of being in your studio, I'm talking to you via Skype.
Yeah. Well, let's hope the operational side doesn't get held up too much by things if it does continue for a while longer. But look, Kiran, in the meantime, thanks indeed for joining us there on Skype. Good to talk to you, and as I say, congratulations.
Thank you very much, Jeremy. It's been a pleasure.
That's Kiran Morzaria. He's the Chief Executive of Cadence Minerals.